at a forum and I asked my audience, in order to test how familiar they are with Africa, I asked them, who is the president of Namibia? How many of you know that Hifikepunye Pohamba is the president of Namibia? How many of you know that the president of Mozambique is called Nyusi? You do not know, but you know the footballer who scored last night in the football match between Villarreal and Barcelona. It has always been a battle of the mind, and if our minds are not in our control, 9 out of 10 times we'll always lose out.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am your anchorman, Bovet Maloba. Welcome to another edition of us talking about Africa. Today, we'll be talking precisely on the problems we face in Africa and the proposed solutions. I'm here in the studio with Mr. George Ngongang, a business administrator and an entrepreneur. We also have Mr. Shey, kaavi of the Amazonian Governing Council with us today. Okay, so Mr. Kaavi, can you continue with your points, sir?
The next point I was thinking also is these African dictators.
Mm-hmm.
We really have a problem with the love for power.
Mm-hmm.
We have a problem in keeping the constitution to be as it must be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when people come and they make a constitution, it is the first law of the country,
mm-hmm.
which must be followed by the #1 man of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that in Africa, that #1 man in any country should be the president.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, in Africa, there is that tendency that the president can change the constitution as his whims and caprices anytime he wants. He can, even in his dream, he just changes the constitution with a stroke of a pen. And that is something that we should learn to kick against as far as these problems in Africa is concerned. Because when you start changing the constitution, that's how you're getting old in power, thinking that maybe you are the only one to do this and this job. But when you look at some of the African countries, you see that there are a lot of dictators that should have long been gone, like the Paul Biya of Cameroon, like the Mugabe of Zimbabwe, like is Idris Deby still in charge?
Yes, sure.
You know, those type of people, you know, they keep telling us that the future of tomorrow is in the hands of the youth. Now, I very much outlived my youthfulness. I have youth of my own now, and the same person who told me some 34 years ago that the future of tomorrow is in the hands of the youth is still the one telling my child the same old nightmare stories he told me some 34 years ago. That it doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
Because had it been governments were changing, for example, let me use Cameroon. In Cameroon, like it should have been, we would not have been in this mess
mm-hmm.
where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
Because no two people think the same.
Mm-hmm.
There is some other person who will come and, you know, and think differently and do things differently mm-hmm. to keep the integrity of the country intact.
Mm-hmm.
But when you keep one person whose vision, when you keep one person whose vision has been blocked, one person who doesn't have anything to offer the world or the society again in power, then everything becomes stagnant, you know. So in African countries should struggle to make, African people should struggle to make sure that when they take the helm of power, they should leave it when it's due, like other European countries do. Because countries are not traditional groups. They're not even in Jangi groups. No one person can rule in Jangi group forever. So we should learn to differentiate those type of things. Then also in Africa we have
concerning the point you made, concerning the point you made about the African dictators, it is a very troubling situation because almost all the African presidents are over 60. When you are 60 is some kind, it's retirement age, right? And when you are over 60, your brain gets tired. You cannot be competitive when alongside your counterparts in Europe and Asia. We have very old people in power. Each time they go for meetings, they are sleeping. They don't concentrate. That's
why I say Africa is an old continent.
Yes, it's terrible.
You know.
So what you're saying is really correct. We have to flush away all these old people. It is not. We don't have to wait for foreign governments to come and do it for us. They don't care. It is to the advantage of the foreign government if we are having lazy old people. It's our responsibility. Before France changed, the market women, right? The rustics, the women in the society, the market women are the people who carried out the French Revolution.
Yeah.
So women should not sit in Africa and say politics is for men. African women, don't you sit there and think politics is for men. What France is today is because of women. They went in and had to deal with the Louise and the Marie Antoinette. The people who thought they were like some gods. They said the king was put in place by God and their powers were not questionable. But women, your role is very important. African women, don't just sit at home and think you are very important. You can bring the change in the community. You can bring the change in the community. Some few people, a small oligarchy should not sit there and waste the lives of your children. All your children have become criminals abroad. Almost all African children have become criminal because a small group of people have hijacked the economy of the country. They have hijacked the finance system and they are building castles left and right. And the population is suffering. What are you waiting for? Stand up for your right and say no to these old dictators. Mr. Ngongang, do you have something to say about African dictatorship?
What I have to say is that I'm more concerned with the politics that the leader, whatever duration they have on power, whether they have been there for a year, for 5 years, for 30 years, for 40 years, what is critical for me, on my point of view, is what are they doing for the country? What do they want to bring their country to?
Of course.
Very few African countries has really a clear plan that we see every year how the country is developing, that we see where the country is heading. For me, it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of vision. It's a matter of putting the line, putting the vision to the population, and driving everybody to that vision. So I see very few countries that are doing this. Maybe Rwanda has started something, you see how the progress is going on, you see technology, Ghana, very, Rwanda could be a good example because, I mean, it's not a matter of how long you have been in power. To me, it's a matter of what are you doing for your population, what's the vision, health, education, security, development, technology, jobs, and so on. So this is, for me, that's the basic African needs.
Of course.
To eat, to get good health, to go to school, to get educated, to get trained, and then there will be some time where we'll have that base and we'll say now we need more fresh air. I mean, for me the challenge today is to see the vision. Where are we going? Where are we heading? And this is what we're missing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what, for me, it's really missing.
Okay. While preparing to go to your next topic, we'll go back to Mr. Kaavi. Can you continue with your next point? We'll come back to you, Mr. Ngongang.
I had also, because when he was talking, I was also thinking about the African Union should stop being a toothless bulldog and should stop being stooge to the European and the West somehow, because when you look at the problems in Africa, you'll notice that it's because African leaders, they don't have a decision of their own. They can't really take a decision as far as Africa is concerned. The decisions or whatever is being enforced from somewhere, you know. And you see, like I would say, there are things that European or the West does to Africa that Africa cannot do to them. For example, how on earth will Africa allow a European country like France to come into Libya and kick out Muammar Gaddafi without the consent of African leaders? I don't believe that one day you can hear Nigeria get into Italy to kick out somebody from Italy. You hear all European countries will be begging and they'll say that is trespassing, you know. And I want to believe that though Gaddafi was a dictator, he's not so much a dictator more than Paul Biya, who France is eating from, because he is the stooge of Paul Biya. I so much believe that it is because Gaddafi said, I control the price of my oil, you cannot get here. I control my economy, you cannot get here. He drew the line. And also because Gaddafi had that vision of forming an African budget. And France, knowing that forming an African budget will mean the end of France CFA. And they know how much they are gaining from African countries that are using the CFA. You know, they also stood back and said, no, you cannot eat your cake and have it. So we will not eat this cake. And in order not to eat that cake is to do away with somebody who wants to force them to eat that cake. And that was Gaddafi. But when that happened, Africa was tongue-tied. Their hands were tied. Nobody acted. That is not something that Africa should allow to happen. Like this, for instance, there is also the story of this Laurent Gbagbo of Ivory Coast. Why was Laurent Gbagbo kicked out? The coup d'etat in Ivory Coast was sponsored by France. I followed it from A to Z, and because I started having some kind of backslide when the military of Ivory Coast were defeating the rebels, and then they were being shot at by the French soldiers. And when they interviewed the French foreign minister, he said they never knew that they were shooting at the Ivorian military. How come? You know? And it happens not once, not twice. When at the verge, when the Ivorian military was to defeat the rebels, France intervened and they were shooting at the government soldiers. You know, the problem was because China got into Ivory Coast and said, look, you have been selling this thing to France for 2.5 million. We are going to be giving you 3 million for this. If you are Laurent Gbagbo and you are thinking about your people, who will you sign trade deals with? Will you continue to give France for 2.5 million while somebody is giving you 3 million? So Laurent Gbagbo said, okay, look, if this is the case, will you give me 3 million? No, you will not give me 3 million. I give it to China. And China started controlling it. That is how it was. So France noticed that they are losing a lot. And a lot of things were taken away from trade deals, were taken away from France towards China. You know, that is why they had to kick Laurent Gbagbo up. And when they kicked Laurent Gbagbo up, what are the deals now? As this, who is there now, Ouattara, he came out, he cancelled all those deals with China, and they're back with France. I don't know now for how much, but the deals are back with France. So who is fooling who in Africa?
Okay.
So I think Africa has to form some kind of an African tribunal where Africans themselves can sue a leader that is not functioning for the people. You know, Africa needs such a tribunal, and they need to form some kind of a law enforcement agency that can be able to enforce rulings, you know, that comes from the African court. For example, there was a ruling from the African court which asked La République du Cameroon to get into constructive dialogue with the peoples of southern Cameroon. You know, that was, it's more than 10 years ago. And if the La République du Cameroon got into constructive dialogue with the people of southern Cameroon, like the African court, Banjul, ruled, we would not have been in this mess where we are today. You see? So there are many of those things that we need. Is because the African court doesn't have that the means to reinforce, you know, because they said they are going to give in their services for that dialogue to hold. And La République du Cameroon wrote back to them, telling them that they should give them 31 more days, because I think it was 82 days that they gave, that La République du Cameroon should get into that dialogue. That they should give them 3 more months. Since then, it's been 10 years. So we need to get in. We need to be honest. That's what Africa needs to be doing. We need to be honest on upon ourselves and build in structures that helps Africa for Africa. So I think from there we are moving on a very good step. Okay. If not, then we will remain as we are.
Okay, thank you very much. On this point, I think the last time I watched Alpha Conde, the president of African Union, he was making some points. He said Africa would not want to receive financial support from European Union anymore, which means they are trying to progress. Because if European Union is sponsoring African Union, it's crazy. That would mean they will have an interest in African Union. That would mean they will have an interest in decision making and in everything. So if you really want to be independent, you should not be getting money from somebody, right?
Right.
Okay.
Excuse me. You say support. When you talk about support like that, I'm a bit shaking because they come with us. They say it is support.
Yeah.
They say it is aid.
Yeah, it's hypocrisy. I know.
In fact, have you ever seen somebody begging someone to give him or her aid?
It's hypocrisy.
So
I know.
what do they mean aid? They are using us like their banks. They give us monies that we have to pay with interest tomorrow. So they're banking on Africa.
Of course.
You know? So we do not need it.
It's a trap.
We do not need it. They are working their monies upon us.
Okay.
If you want to give me an aid without strings. Don't give me a goat and then you hold a rope.
It's crazy.
Then we are still sharing it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Ngongang, what was your next point, sir?
My next point was about financing the entrepreneurial activities or companies in Africa. So one of the challenges is that there is a difficulty for companies to get funded. But I think that, again, we know that the diaspora is putting a lot of money through different channels in the continent, through their family. Many have not succeeded because the family are using the money for something else, and they have trusted some friends that have fraud them. And I think that we need some means how the diaspora can put the money in a good way in the economy, maybe vehicle, maybe banks or whatever, but we need some means to draw the money in the economy and put it into the startups or financing the companies. Because if a company wants to grow and be an African champion, then they need some financing, and this financing most of the time banks are not giving the money out. So I think the diaspora can also participate in, if we collectively imagine maybe few people in the diaspora put 50 euro each. 50 euro times 1 million people is 50 million euro, and this 50 million euro can do a lot in the economy of one of the African countries. So one example, we have been from the report from the World Bank, they said that $50 billion has been transferred from the diaspora every year in Africa. But the problem is that these transfers are going to different family members who are using it for food. Okay, it's putting it's putting some boost in the economy because people are giving out the money to buy goods and so on. But let's imagine this money, half of this money was going to the company that are creating jobs and creating more and going abroad to generate more income. This would be fantastic. So one of the points, how to finance the company on the continent, again, I think that the diaspora should take its own share, and so that maybe that we can create a vehicle together to put some money in it and see how we can channel it into the African economy. Because I think what the brother was just saying, we have to take the leadership on our own life. If we don't take the leadership on our own life, who else can do that better than you? And we cannot expect that European or American or whoever who can help us. We have to think with the means we have, to be creative about the means we have, and see how can we take the means that are available to create a better life for us, for our family, for our brothers, for our continent. So, and I think that again, I always mention the diaspora because I think there's a lot of knowledge in the diaspora, there's a lot of skills in the diaspora, a lot of experience in the diaspora, a lot of network in the diaspora. There's a lot of people who are networked with high network people with very. So I think that we have to give our share to the continent. We have to bring back what we have learned, to bring back the content we have generated, bring our network. You see my business in Cameroon, I set it up with a German guy who went down with me. We negotiated some business there. You know, I captured some money from Germany and channeled it into the economy. I had like, in 2 years' time, I had almost 5 people working full-time there. I had helped them, you know, helping families. And this is what we need more. This is what we need more. So this is my point, which is a very critical one, to channel more money in the economy and help the company to develop.
Okay, thank you very much. The next point, sir.
Yeah, the next point that I wanted to say is more the I think this is not new. Many French, former French colonies, maybe based on our education, is not, we are not in the business mindset, you know, we are not very entrepreneurial. And in many countries, in African countries, who are not on the Anglo-Saxon mentality, there's not so much creativity and entrepreneurship. Most of these countries, people want to be civil servant. Everybody is looking to get a job somewhere, pay somewhere to get a job because it will be for the whole life. So this idea to create new things, create new company, create new product, innovate and so on, is not that there yet. It's still missing. And we need more of this. And I think either private initiative or state initiative is critical here to stimulate more creativity and more entrepreneurship into our countries. And the good thing is to start really with kids, because in the grammar school you can put some activities for the kids to start thinking entrepreneurial. Revenue, cost, profit, taxes, investment, you know, interest rate, you know, that kids start to be used to this and creating value, solving problems and so on. So we have to put more this in the grammar education, basic education to our kids. I went to school to Babson College, which is one of the best entrepreneurial schools in the world. And every year, a group of students went to Ghana and they start some business plan competition for children between 8 years and 14 years old. And this is the time to foster entrepreneurship. This is the time to tell them that you can always, if you solve a problem, you can make money with it. If you see a problem somewhere, this problem is an opportunity. If you see somebody who is, oh, how can I do this? How can I solve this? And it's an opportunity to create a solution for him. And this solution you are creating for him is also for other people in the country who have the same problem, but also in the continent who have the same problem. And this creativity and this entrepreneurship behavior or mindset is still missing in our community. And many people say, oh, you have to be born entrepreneur. This is absolutely wrong. You have to be initiated entrepreneur. The sooner, the better. The earlier in the life, the better. And this is something that Africa needs, because if we have more entrepreneurs, the more entrepreneurs we have, the more buoyant economy we will have, and the more investment probably will be pulled in, and the more economy will develop, and the more politics will be under pressure to regulate and to create a frame that will help to have a better life for the whole country. I do believe that entrepreneurship in Africa is the key to our development.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
I also think so too. Yeah, Mr. Ngongang, you were talking about banking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, banking in general. What I just wanted to say is that economics. So the economy is financed with foreign money most of the time. The economy has some puzzles. Everybody plays role. And the role of banks here is to help the economy to prosper. Very few business people in Europe or in other continents are using their own cash, full cash, to do what they want to do. Most of the time, they take a piece of the cash they have. Let's say they have a project of 20 million euros. They will take 5 million euros or 10 million euros, and they will find a bank that will add more, the 10 others or 15 others, and they will leverage on this bank money to create their business, because their business is earning more than the interest rate that they are paying on the bank. This only makes sense if you are generating more in the bottom line, in your net income, than you are paying to the bank. Then you are using the bank money to run your business. And then the other 10 million that you have, you can invest it in something else. That's why many Africans don't know how banks work. They don't know why banks are there. They think bank is just to go and put their money in and take it when they need. No, bank is also there to finance your business. But banks always need some warranties. They always need maybe a line title or something that will tell them that if the business fails, they can still take something from you. And most of the time, they also want to see some kind of business case, or how your business is working, how you are earning money, and so on and so forth. So I advise people to look into how they can get their business financed by bank, but bank asking more structure, but this structure is helping you to be successful. If you have more structure because you want to take money from the bank, this structure will help you to be also successful, to be disciplined in the way you do your business. And it's very, very important to look into which bank is also providing some kind of advice to you, because there are some financial institutions who provide advice, so they give you the money, but they also have a network of specialists to help you to be successful in your business. So just telling people to look into this. Or there are also businesses who are running, they know how their business run, they know how it works, but sometimes they lack cash, they lack money, they can borrow some money from the bank to close some gaps or financial gap that they have, to make sure that their business works continuously. So the key thing here is make sure that you know how to run your business, make sure that you get the advice that you need, so that if you have some money from the bank, you will be able to reimburse the money. And this is how the business are working all over the places, through banking, through bank loan. So this is one thing that I wanted to share. And I'm just using this opportunity to add one more point that I forgot when I was talking about entrepreneurship. I'm sorry that I'm talking a lot about the diaspora, because I still believe that the continent really.
Okay, before you go to this your next point,
Yeah.
I want to talk about that people who are lending money in Africa. I realized many Africans are afraid of borrowing money. Many Africans are afraid. They don't have this attitude. When they are owing you, they don't know how to deal with you. Many Africans, when they are owing you, you call them, they don't want to pick your calls. It's like they are under tension. They should relax. Africans relax. It's normal to owe somebody. people all over the world survive by borrowing money. It's normal to borrow money. Creditors will not kill you. If you borrow money from me and you don't have it, don't reject my calls. Pick my calls. You should be the first person to call me. If you're owing me, call me and say, Mr. Bovet, I don't have your money today. Maybe I'll give you the day after tomorrow. And there will be no problem. But when you start rejecting my calls, not because you don't want to pay, just because you are under tension, then you make me feel nervous. You make me think you don't want to pay me, and you bring trouble to yourself. Do you understand? Mr. Shey, do you have something to say about this?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is correct, but you should sometimes, because you're looking at it from, I want to look at it from two different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, if I'm owing you, you call me anytime, I'll pick my call.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, please, I don't have it, I can do this, I can do that. Please, you will see with me. But Africa is a different setting. It's a different culture. When I'm owing you, I'm not saying that people should not pick their calls when somebody's call when they're owing you, but Africa is a different setting, it's a different culture. It's a culture where if you are owing me and I call you and you don't have the money, I'm able to call the police and they arrest you and they keep you up for even for 3 months if I'm richer than you. But here, if you are owing me and I call the police cannot even go to arrest you in so much like it's in Europe. Because in Africa, they'll keep you. But in Europe, they'll try, take you to court, they'll know, yeah, you are owing this person, but they'll try to make sure that you work and pay that person. But in Africa, they keep you in prison, you cannot even work, you cannot pay.
Okay, yeah.
So there are two different cultures. So what we should also struggle to see how we can change the system first, and then because truly speaking, you are right, but when you talk about bank and borrowing, many people are very scared in Africa. They are not scared because they don't know that they are supposed to borrow. They're just scared because they know that the system itself might not protect them to work that money and pay back. Most Africans, they'll borrow with uncertainty. But in Europe, sometimes you borrow with certainty because you already know that you have some insurance, some assurance. Like if a company declares fight here, the manager does not really go to prison like it might happen in Africa. So a company in Africa that has borrowed a lot of money declares fight, the man might spend the rest of his life in prison forever. But here, there are that insurance, that before you have that company, you have this insurance, that if this and this happen, that insurance covers it. But the insurance policy in Africa is terrible. It's terrible. You go, you hit, like I had taxis when I was in back home. Your taxi hits another taxi, and you go to the insurance company that this is what has happened, or somebody has hit you from behind. The person is wrong, right? That the person has hit you from behind, and you complain to your insurance company. The insurance company does nothing, and then you take the matter to court. The insurance company uses that money that they were supposed to pay you and pay a lawyer to follow you to court. You pay the insurance. So we should look at it from so many perspectives. We have to change a lot of things in Africa before we can really arrive at a level where borrowing will not be a problem to so many people. But people should try to borrow.
Yes.
But they should make sure that they are sure of the type of business they are venturing in. So because they should not borrow for borrowing's sake, because you can borrow, then you're also on the wrong.
Of course. So yeah, what you're saying is right. What you're saying is right. They should have a business plan. They should have a business proposal. They should have business advisors. But the bottom line remains: an entrepreneur must bear risk. They must bear risk. Because if you are just afraid that you may not be able to pay back, you'll never get rich. You'll never make the money. You must borrow. And we'll go to Mr. Womeling for your last point, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I have a last point which so many people might find very controversial, but I want to believe that I had really looked at it from so many perspectives, and I've noticed that this is something. It's a canker worm. It's a disease, because when something is good, it's good, but when you overdo it, it's no longer good. Water is good. When you drink a lot of water, you have problem with your stomach. Food is good. When you drink a lot of food, when you eat a lot of food, you have problems. So I want to say there is one of the problems that is making Africa the way it is today is religion. It's religion. Because somebody sleeps in the night, maybe gets up in the morning, read one verse on the Bible, and tomorrow around his house he forms a church and look for drums, and that is it. It has gone. And then you see people coming in all over, because you know, when people are poor, what I've noticed is when people are poor, they tend to pray much, because you see in Africa, people spend much time that they would have been doing something maybe to impact meaningful change in the society, praying. You know, I'm not saying that people should not pray, but you should walk and let something happen. Because if you sit and pray like what we're watching here on Facebook, a house is burning, and instead of people trying to quench the fire that's starting, Jesus, please Jesus, blood of Jesus cannot help quench that fire, even you shout for 28 years. So do something to quench the fire, because we are really misplacing it. We are thinking that God is a robot or something that is like you are teasing God, because that is a very big faith that I've not seen. Okay, now you see, like in Europe here, I see Europe, they brought Christianity to us, quite all right. But I see Europe changing churches into museums, you know, into some kind of art collection or blah 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 blah. Why Africa spends a lot of money that they don't even have building new churches? Why Europe is concentrating on their time and effort on science and technology? Africans are concentrating all their effort on praying. You know, that time that you have used in praying, let's say we have 24 hours a day, there are Africans that pray for 16 hours a day. Now what do you do with the rest of the time? What do you do? You have just a few hours left. In fact, I'm saying that Africa should look at the way they reconcile the religious aspect with the level of development in Africa. Because the time that they concentrate in praying, it is a time that they could have used in doing some meaningful job. I'm not saying that they should not pray, but you should not like take it as if it is some kind of a duty that you must do in order to have this or that.
Okay.
So religion is really costing Africa a lot, and in terms of finance also, because you see pastors now having private jets, having seven cars. What for? So
okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah. I just wanted to add something.
Yeah.
This one. So I just want to share one of the video that I saw a few days ago on that was shared on YouTube. A pastor in Congo, I think, who was telling his people in the church that he was shocked when he asked in the room during a church session, who here feel he is called by God to serve God. Almost 70% of the church showed their hand. He said, I'm a pastor in danger. I'm a pastor in danger because almost 2/3 of the church want to be pastor. They believe that they have been called by God to be pastor. And he asked them, what will happen if you are pastor? Who will treat us in the hospital? Who will build our house? We need an architect, an engineer, a civil engineer to build houses. We need a medical doctor to build houses. Here we are already praying when we are sick, but it's enough here. Let a medical doctor treat us when we are sick.
of course.
God will help him to treat us in the right way.
Yeah.
But we need him. We need somebody who can translate. After church, let's talk about, hey, you know English. Can you help me to do my English classes? Hey, you know mathematics. Can you help me to understand mathematics? And so, not after the church continue to talk about this person in the Bible, this on the Bible. So yes, we have to take some time to pray together, to talk up to pray together, to have this time together. But after this, we also have to share other things that we need to be successful in life and work. He has worked for 6 days. God Himself has worked for 6 days and take the 7th day for prayer and so on. So this was just to add these witnesses have here.
I think there is a quotation of somebody who said, to see an aeroplane manufactured in Africa is like saying that you want to see in Nigeria without church.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ngongang and Mr. Womelen. The point you made about religion is a very important point, because all you said is true about Africa. Africans misunderstand almost everything about religion. There's so much ignorance when it comes to that aspect of religion in Africa. You cannot imagine that today, I'm talking about today, 21st century, people in Africa still believe that, you know, the popular photo of Jesus, this popular photo of Jesus that you see everywhere.
That is Christ.
Yes, people actually believe that that's Jesus. That's the photo of Caesar Borgia. Caesar Borgia, a European guy. How can Africans at this stage still believe that that is the actual photo of Jesus? For heaven's sake, Jesus was supposed to come from the Middle East, from Israel. And Europeans don't live in Israel. What is wrong with Africans? I went to Cameroon last year and I was talking to a group of about 20 people, trying to tell them that no, that is just a photo of a European person. His name is Caesar Borgia. His father's name is Pope Alexander Borgia. And that photo was drawn by Michelangelo. And these people almost killed me. They told me that I was Antichrist. I said, what do you mean by I'm Antichrist? I'm not Antichrist. I'm only telling you that this photo that you're buying every day is not Jesus. The guy has come
up on YouTube and say, I am not Jesus.
No, that one you're talking about is an actor.
The one with the
one you're talking about is an
film.
actor. Yes, he's just somebody who resembles the original person. So there's so much ignorance when it comes to religion. Africans don't want to reason with their own head. They just want to listen to what prophets say. They just want to listen to what the pastors say. Some of these pastors, they know only what the Bible says. But now, Africans need to know about medicine. They need to know about psychology. They need to know about engineering. So I think the pastors should start encouraging their flocks to go and study other things too, just like what people were saying. But since we are talking about religion, I'll just use the opportunity to conclude with this point that has been troubling me since. This is this idea in Africa where some tribes look down on other tribes. Like, it's very popular in Africa for you to see a tribe calling their neighboring tribe slaves. Like, their neighbors are slaves. They don't want to have anything to do with them. They don't want to intermarry with them. It's crazy. How can you be a tribe and your neighboring tribe is considered as a slave? They cannot buy land in a certain area. Your children cannot get married to their children. How comes? It's crazy. And you would rather send your children to send them abroad, and your son will call you on the phone, Daddy, I want to get married to an Italian girl, and you're like, wow, yes, bring her. You don't even know the history of the Italian girl. You want your son to get married to her, but your neighbor, the one in just the next village, you don't. What is happening? And what are the pastors even doing? What are the pastors doing? You have great prophets in Africa with pulling millions of people. What are they doing? How can you be calling yourself a man of God and you're coming from such communities, and you see your fellow tribe people calling their neighbors slaves, and you say you're a pastor, you cannot intervene in such situations? It is sickening. It is really something that's troubling. I'd advise pastors in Africa. This situation is going on in Cameroon. There's a tribe called around the Manu people. There's this situation. They call some group of them. They call, I think one of the tribes. They call them. They say they are slaves. It's too bad. If I have people in Cameroon, like some pastors or whatever, if they can come up with a group to look into this situation, I can contact one or two of my friends for us to contribute some money to sponsor the delegation that's going to look into this issue, because I don't think we should continue this way. This situation is also in Ghana, where some tribes cannot get married to other tribes because they think they are inferior and they are slaves. We should settle all these kind of problems. It is not something we should be hearing.
Yes.
We are there criticizing the Europeans, that they look down on us, and we are doing the same thing to our fellow Africans. It's too bad. And I think we are going to end here. I want to appreciate you, Mr. George Ngongang, for coming.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kaavi, I thank you for coming from AGCE. Do you have something to say to your audience before saying goodbye? Mr. Kaavi?
Well, it's just, I just struggle to say we should struggle to make Africa for Africans, or an Africa by Africans, because what we have now is an artificial Africa that is not original. The original Africa is in the hands of the European. We are having a photocopy. So let us try to get that original copy back on our chest and be proud to be Africans, who we are. I think, thank you for having me, and the pleasure is mine, sir.
Mr. Ngongang?
Thank you again for inviting me into this program. And what I would say is that, what I said through this conversation is that the diaspora for me is part of the solution. And we are seeing many European, Americans, Westerners who are going to Africa to find jobs, to work there, to find opportunities. I think we will be stranger again in our countries if we stay too long away. And it's time for us to get involved and try to find solutions to all the problems that we have talked about today. Because we have the contact for this, we have the skills for this, we have the experience, we have the intelligence to put all this in place. Surely it will not be easy, but we have to work with people on the ground to make sure that we can have a better life in the next coming years and years. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, we've come to the end of our program. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did enjoy this program, you share and like. You meet us on Facebook, and the same program will be, I think, same time next week. Thank you very much.
The African economy is $1.2 trillion. That is the combined GDP of the African economy. The economy of Brazil, with 151 million people, give or take, is also $1.12 trillion. The economy of Russia is the same size as the economy of Africa, with 1 billion people. Intra-African trade is no more than 20%. Africans are dying younger than they were in 1963. All the diseases that we thought we had conquered are back. Leprosy is back. Malaria is back. And as if we are being visited by other plagues, Ebola is alive and well.